live. Some people are watching right now, and then we're gonna hit record
Okay.
in three, two. Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. I just love talking to authors because they have the courage to take their thoughts, put it down on a piece of paper, and share that with the world. And it may end up changing the world in addition to their legacy and their destiny. And if you're looking to write a book out there, check out Dream Starters Publishing. We can help you out with wherever you're at in the process. And if you have a book out there and you want to generate leads with the book, maybe to grow a business, check out bookmarketingcrm.com. Guys, I have an exciting guest for you guys today. And this individual did some TED Talks in the past, and now she helps others get into the world of speaking. But she interviews many people, specifically in Chile, and has a unique background. So let's have some fun with this one. She wrote a book, and it is in Spanish, but the book is about let's talk about money. So without further ado, I want to welcome Javiera Quiroga to the stage. Thanks so much for being here. I really
You
appreciate it.
did good. You did good.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I
You
got
did
that.
very,
I knew I'd be ready for showtime, just so you know.
but you got people's hopes up. I'm not that interested as as it sounded.
Well, number one, let's talk a little bit about the genesis of you writing a book. What made you want to write a book? I know you're on to bigger and better things now, but what
Yeah.
made you pen your thoughts down on paper and want to share it with the world and within your podcast?
No, the story is less fancy. They called me. Penguin Random House called me up. I
Whoa.
had a massive following on Instagram, and they called me and they were like, "You have to write a book." And I was like, but nobody would buy it, not even my mother. And they were like, "You have no idea. Everybody would buy it." And I was like, okay, like if you want to run the risk of me writing a book, I'll write it, but nobody's going to buy it. And they were like, hold our beer. And so I wrote a book, and it was a best-selling book, and they were completely right. And that's how it happened.
So, why
I
did they
mean, I
come
would
to you in
love
the
to
first
tell
place?
you, I would
Uh,
love to tell you that it was my idea, but I would never, in my wildest dreams, would have imagined of writing a book, or I don't know, have people go buy it. I mean, never, never.
So you were saying before that you have a massive following, especially in Chile, and maybe it's because
Yes.
you're outspoken, you have great connections, or you have mastered some type of skill set of sharing stories.
Yeah.
224,000 followers on Instagram alone. So where did that following come from?
Me making stupid and funny videos in my pajamas in the pandemic about economics in simple and funny Instagram. That's basically how it started. I identified a huge problem. People don't understand economics and the way the economy works, basically because specialized media speaks in a way that people, like normal people, not you, not me, like the normal citizen doesn't understand.
Mhm.
And so I started speaking in a way that the normal citizen that doesn't specialize in the economy did understand. Funny, dynamic, in another language, and it was a massive hit.
Wow. And so your background in economics, was it just the passion of yours or
No,
from
it was a massive accident. It was not.
you're very
No,
humble.
well, no. Basically, what happened is that when I had to do an internship in Santiago in Chile, I was in school, in university, and I applied to El Mercurio, which is Chile's most traditional newspaper. And when I applied, you had to choose like a section of the newspaper. And I wanted politics because it's what I like. That was my first choice. You had to apply for three sections. Politics, number one. My second was international because I love foreign affairs. And third, which was my least favorite option, was economy and business. And they called me and they were like, economy and business or nothing. And I said, economy and business. And that's how it started. And I started doing a career in economy and business sections in specialized media. And then I am a very go-getting person. So I was I was at an event one day and I heard somebody speaking very good English, and I approached this person and I was like, "Who are you?" Just like that, very Quiroga way. I was like, "Who are you? And why do you speak English?" And he was like, "Oh, my name is blah blah, and I work for Bloomberg News." And I was like, "Oh, you have an office here in Santiago?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I want to work for you guys." And he was like, "Oh, it's very hard to get in. Like basically somebody has to die or get relocated." And I was like, "Okay, well, in case somebody dies or gets like reallocated, here's my telephone number." And so I started looking into it because I'm very obsessive about those things. And nothing ever happened. And like a year later or something like that, he emailed me and he was like, FYI, there's an opening. And he was like, I don't think that you apply for this, but just in case. So I applied and nobody ever called me, of course, because I did not. I was underqualified for the position. So nobody called me. So what I did is that I took a plane to fucking New York City to tell the CEO of Bloomberg News that I wanted the position more than anybody else and that I would learn whatever was needed, but that I was hungrier than anybody else in this country or in the world for that position. So I went into 731 Lexington Avenue without an appointment. I walk into the building and I'm like, "Hi, I'm from Chile. I'm here to see Lori Hayes, CEO of Bloomberg News at that time." And they're like, "You don't have an appointment." And I'm like, "Nope. But can you tell her that I'm here from Chile with all my life savings to tell her that I'm applying for an interview in Santiago?" And they were like,
Wow.
"We can't do that for you." And I was like, "Pretty please." Nope. I went out of the building feeling like a loser.
Yeah, you
I
just
sat,
traveled, 30,000 miles. I don't know what it is.
yeah, I sat down on the street feeling like a complete, like a clown. I sat down there thinking to myself, what am I going to tell my friends? What am I going to tell my mom, my dad? Like, what did I do? So I sat there for like a good 20 minutes. And then the bouncer, like the security person comes to me like, okay, she's going to have you come up. So I go up. She didn't even have like a meeting like place, nothing in the hall. She goes up to me. She looks and she's like, "I thought you were a guy. I thought you were a Javier." And she tells me, "I've seen your emails. I've seen you blowing up my inbox, and I can't do anything for you. But I can't have you interviewed. And if you're good for the position, you will advance in the process. What I can't have is get you an interview." And I was like, "Thank you, Mrs. Hayes.
That's all
The
I
trip
wanted.
has paid. That's all I wanted, to see me, to have me heard." And they called me 2 weeks later. The guy that was my boss for 5 years, 6 years. And he was like, "Hi, I think you're completely underqualified, but I have to interview you." And I was like, "So you're fucked." And that's how it happened.
Wow.
I convinced them one by one. The process was a year. They all thought I was completely underqualified, but they saw the hunger in me, the ambition.
Amazing. And so did you work from Chile or did you
Yeah.
go to New York?
I mean, I traveled for different things, boot camp, whatever, but I worked from Chile, based in Chile.
Wow. The
Yep.
stick-to-itiveness, the grit. I'm assuming it's just a part of you and therefore you apply that technique or that that ethic to pretty much
Apply
everything
to
you do.
everything,
Yeah.
to everything.
Oh, phenomenal. Okay. All right. So 5, 6 years, you transitioned out of that to pursue, it sounds like, and maybe this is part of it, to storytelling, and the fascination of helping others tell their story probably ties into your TEDx experience. So how did that all come to be?
Well, yeah, that's what do you mean?
So how did you go from that to wanting to start your own podcast? And I believe you interview many famous people in Chile, and therefore you have fallen in love with just the act of storytelling. Or maybe it's been a part of you your whole life. You applied it
It's
to
been
that
a part.
position.
My mom tells me that when I was young, I used to sit in front of TV and just watch news for hours. I was like always obsessed with, like, a news junkie, obsessed with, like, I don't know. My mom always tells me, like, Lady D's funeral, watching hours, natural disasters, like just stories and stories and stories, whatever I could get out of news. I was like, I've always been obsessed with it. So
Wow.
yeah, in some way or another, speaking to people, like if I jump into a cab, I'm not the girl who will be texting in the back of the cab. I'm the girl who will be talking and talking and talking to the cab driver all the time. I've always been obsessed with speaking, talking to people, connecting. I have a bunch of friends. Like, I'm a friend person,
You're a
I'm a
magnet. You're a magnet for social
people.
activity. Yeah.
Yes. I'm a people person, and so in some way or another, I'm always talking, telling stories, you know,
Wow. And it
in some
sounds
way
like you,
or others.
and so when you started to put out economic advice or financial literacy information on social media, did it
Yeah.
just explode overnight because of your personality? And I'm a
Yeah.
doc. Yeah, yeah, right. So did it just
It
catch?
was crazy. It was crazy.
Wow. And so
At first, people bullied me. My friends bullied me, and now they're completely quiet. They're like, "You go, girl."
we knew it all along,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And now they're like, "Oh, can you help us in our business?" And I'm like, "Fuck you all."
So, all right, I talk a lot about financial literacy on this podcast. The book that changed my life is a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you ever read that book at all?
Of course. And
Yeah.
my book is next to it in libraries. Can you imagine the honor of that?
That is insane. I
It
mean,
is. It's
anytime.
I can send you pictures of that. It's fucking crazy.
Amazing. So that book
Yeah.
changed my life because it taught me for the very first time how the poor think and how the rich think.
Yeah.
Financial literacy to me is something that we should be focusing on in school. And I do believe there is some type of system in place to keep people dumb financially, right?
You really
And I think that the moment you start to understand how the wealthy think, that's whenever you can escape the matrix, if you will, and obtain freedom. So do most people that you talk to have no clue? And
so.
yeah. And what do you attribute that to? Is it culture? Is it school system? Is it the system itself?
I cannot speak for you. I can speak for Chile.
Okay.
Okay. And this I dominate with complete fundamentals. What I'm going to say. In Chile, we have no financial education whatsoever in schools, in universities, nothing. There is, and this is not a priority for this is not governments, I'm going to say states, left, right, center, nobody. There hasn't been anything, there's nothing. Nobody has done anything. Nobody's doing anything. I've spoken to presidents, ministers. This is not a priority for anybody. So what happens is that kids go out of schools and banks approach them with credit cards,
Yeah.
products.
18
They
years
have
old. Happened to me.
exactly, and they have no idea how to use them. And the problem starts there.
Yeah.
So at some degree, I kind of understand what you're saying. There is an incentive to keep people dumb from certain sectors.
Yeah.
I kind of understand what you're saying. And countries that have been successful, Europeans, how have they done this? It's been a priority for the state. We're not going to, TikTokers, Instagrammers, YouTubers, you and I, we're not going to change this through podcasts, through Instagram reels, TikToks.
We can wake a few people up, but
We can,
we're not
but
changing the game.
you're not going to move the stitch. I mean, this has to be in schools, this has to be in universities. You know, a bunch of teachers, they write to me and they tell me, we want to teach this, but we have no idea how to do this. And no, they don't have to know this. They have to be taught in order to teach this.
Yep. Yeah. And it would, I think, topple the game that's in place. I think there's a system to keep people stuck financially. Therefore, they never awake
I
to
really don't want to go to bed thinking that. You really do think that?
100%. And
It sounds so perverse.
it's scary, I know, but once you look at it that way, everything kind
But
of makes
like,
sense. It, right? When I look at and you want to call it the cabal, you want to call it some type of new world order.
but
All of
like,
these people do not want a nation
you
of
think
people who are awake.
this is like an organized group of people
Yes,
cross
100%
country,
around the
from,
world.
yeah,
Yep. Well,
like
are you
this is a
familiar with
Bilderberg
American
group.
history? Are you familiar with American history at all?
Yeah, but do you
So
think
like
this is a Bilderberg group?
Yes. So, give you a quick little rundown and how I think it all connects. So let's just go back to even less Rockefeller days. Rockefeller was the richest
Yeah,
guy. Even to this day, he would be
he came
wealthier
to
than
Chile and
everybody.
people spat on him.
Yeah. Well, Rockefeller was, I thought, was a good guy in school, right? He created all this stuff. Turns out Rockefeller did a lot of bad. All right. And so I'm a capitalist. I'm a free market guy. But when you look at what Rockefeller did, he did a couple things. One, he created the American education system. He created it, school system. And his quote, his claim to fame is, I want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. And so when you see how he built the American education system, it makes sense. People only know enough to get a job, get in debt, and just stay right where they're at. Also, do you know that he's responsible for the AMA, American Medical Association? He's the one that convinced everybody that said, hey, do not take care of your health. We're going to take care of your health with a pill, petroleum-based pills. He's the one that created it. And then he had his propaganda machine destroy all other sciences out there. So therefore, you had to go to a doctor, and a doctor had to get licensed, and a doctor had to get a license through his AMA that had to say, in order to get healthy, here's the pills that are required. It all makes sense. So how does that combine with the New World Order? Well, when you talk about the Federal Reserve being created, and individuals like him or JP Morgan creating the Federal Reserve. Are you familiar with the creation of this at all?
Yeah, it's not looking good so far.
Yeah. So the Federal Reserve was created in 1912, 1913. They basically had a license to print money. All of a sudden, right afterwards, World War I breaks off because some people say that has to do with the changing of the financial system itself. You move that forward, it gets crazier and crazier into 1971. Nixon takes us off the gold standard. And if you see what's happening right now, I'll kind of put it all together. Takes us off the gold standard. Individuals in the corporate in governments are printing like madmen. And when you can print at will, you can buy different organizations, creating things like the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. And
It's
then
a
it
full
all kind
circle.
of connects of where the money's going and who gets rich from wars. And if you start to see how it all basically intertwines, you realize, oh, the more wars, the richer they are, the more they print money. Oh, and therefore they're tied to all these big corporations like BlackRock. Okay, now it makes sense to keep people poor because if they awake to what we got going on, they'll realize who the bad guys are. And they don't want that.
Are you trying to change that through this podcast?
I'm trying to awake enough people who are ready, right? When the student is ready, the master will appear. So, my philosophy, and this is the philosophy of this podcast, think like an entrepreneur. Yeah, they got all this nonsense going on. Will I change that game? Absolutely not. But if I think like an entrepreneur, I can create a business. I can take care of control of my health. I could take care of my family. I can get control of my emotions because I know their game. I'm going to play my game accordingly. So if you think like an entrepreneur, you can win. You can win in this world. You can write your own story. You can speak on stage. You can articulate your thoughts very well. You can move the needle in other people's lives. And if enough people awake, that'll scare them to death.
I feel like I'm winning. Do you feel like you're winning?
Damn straight. Do
Yeah, me
do
too.
you do you I guess agree with even a percentage of what I just said?
I do. I kind of do, yeah.
So, what do you think is the remedy?
Information is power,
Yeah,
is a
asking
remedy.
good questions, what having the courage, right?
Yeah. Yep. I definitely, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm an alien in my country, like women that speak up that do. Chile is very conservative.
I didn't know
It,
that actually. I don't know
oh
much about
yeah.
that.
Oh my God. Chile is a very conservative Catholic. Like I'm an alien in Chile.
Well,
But
I don't know. You seem, when you say conservative, I
can
mean,
you
I,
imagine?
I
I'm
mean, I see you as an individual who has strong beliefs, strong values. To me, that's conservative.
No, I'm the opposite in Chile. I have a very strong personality. I'm a single mom, and I'm like the opposite to this country. Like an outlier in Malcolm Gladwell's words.
I like
I'm an
that book. Yeah.
outlier. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you're an
I'm a
outlier. But would you consider yourself more about setting people free financially and not trusting the government? What do you think about that?
What do you mean?
So, in my opinion, conservative likes so maybe this is different because there's liberal conservatives and then there's actually
No,
conservative.
because here, no, 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 because people here are completely like lineal. People like go to school, like get a job, get married, have the perfect family with the golden retriever, the house. So like, okay, I like went to Instagram, like left the corporate world to the perfect job, went to Instagram in my pajamas. Like people were like, she's crazy. And did excellent. Single mother, I don't know, like I'm completely nuts. Like I'm a basket case for like, I don't know, for Chile purposes, Catholic place, like,
Yeah, I see
and
that. I see that.
I don't know. Like I have a very strong opinion. People don't like that here. I'm a radio host. I'm very outspoken. People, girls here, very, very low voices, no opinions, because it's not normal in Chile. It's a very small country. It's a town.
Makes
I'm
sense.
not very Chilean, and it's okay because I haven't lived here forever.
So, okay.
I don't fit it with the Chilean culture. I don't fit here very well, and I would not be living here if I didn't have a child who is 50% owned by a Chilean and 50% owned by me. I would not be
Got
here.
it. So you take care of your parents, I believe you said, right? So
I do.
that's why you're there. Okay. I'm
That's why
starting to
I'm here.
piece it all
Why I'm
together.
stuck here, man.
Now,
We
if
would
you could,
we wouldn't be doing this podcast remotely. Where are you based?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you're not too far off if you lived in New York. I'm about 7 hour drive, but did you like the culture of New York? Because in my
Not
opinion,
really.
yeah.
No,
So in my opinion, you wouldn't align with the New York values. By
probably
the way,
not.
do you know there's a major value system in New York as compared to a lot of the other parts of the states?
You're right. I mean, I spent my life, like half of my life, thinking that I wanted to live in New York or in the States. And then I realized that I didn't. But I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't be here. Maybe I would be somewhere else. I don't know. But I'm telling you that um I am very different to the average Chilean. Very
Mm.
different.
Yeah, once you understand economics, right, you understand the game that these politicians are playing and who's lying to you and who's telling you the truth. And maybe we could talk a little bit about it before we go into your podcast and even TED Talks. But I see the government printing money, and the only people who get hurt from this is the middle class, right? The poor is already poor. The rich is going to get richer. Middle class, as soon as you print more money, it just destroys them, right? Unless they have assets, unless they have a business.
Yeah.
And so the ones who are printing the money, wanting big government, who say they're for the middle class, are doing everything in their power to actually destroy it. So you probably look at the American system and either cringe or say it's just as bad as the Chilean government. I'm not sure. So what
And
are your viewpoints on this?
it's happening here as well. So it's really actually the same problem. It's not really different here from there. So I don't really have a very strong opinion of what's happening there. It's really the same.
Same. It's more of
We
the
have
same.
the same problems that you have, the same problems. And actually, we're being run here by a 35-year-old president. Did you
Wow.
know that?
No,
Did you know
no,
that? Our
no, I didn't.
president is 35 years old.
Man.
And all of our ministers on average are that age. So
Uh,
we really have worse problems than you have.
what are your thoughts
They
on
have no
before?
experience. They have no experience. And like what they have had to do is bring older people to the government now in the second time.
You
They
see,
thought that they would be able to do it. And they had no experience. It's like their first job for most of them. But
how are you?
I don't want to get into politics. You know, part of my success is people have no idea what I am. I never speak about politics.
Wow. So I thought you'd be okay with talking about it. I was leaning that way. I was about to ask you some way more
No,
serious
my
questions.
dad is from the extreme right, and my mom is from the extreme left.
No, how does
No,
that happen? I
and
couldn't do
like
it.
them together, they're like I'm still not sure how there hasn't been like a homicide in like between them. Like I was born right, no, like I swear, like when they start like speaking about politics between them, I'm like once I remember, I'm not joking. As a child, I remember that I grabbed a knife and like I was like, you either shut the fuck up, you two, or I'm gonna stab you. Shut the fuck up, you two. So I was like born right in the middle. I can like be objective about politics. And I think that like part of my success is that I can acknowledge things from the left and things from the right objectively
Mm, yeah.
and be like objective, which is what people can't do. Most people can't be objective in politics.
When we're not
And,
recording, I'm going to ask you a political question so nobody else will find out, just so you know.
okay,
So we'll stay away from that.
fine.
But how are you fighting back against a system that technically does not want you free? What are you doing specifically?
What do you mean?
Are you right? I mean, obviously you're writing the books to maybe awake those around you.
My book is absolutely not
Right, but
political.
I mean, when it comes to economics in general, you're still giving people some type of sword that they can slay dragons in their life, which I think is noble, very noble.
Right, but it's completely data driven. It has no politics in between, which is makes it so much more valuable.
Agreed. So you're giving though these individuals around you some way of taking control of their
Data,
life. I think that's awesome. It's not
information,
political at all.
and they can decide for themselves. I am not like driving them towards like making a decision. I am not advising.
There's a
I'm
great quote
giving
out there that says, "A great teacher shows people where to look, but not what to see."
Exactly.
Yeah.
I am not telling you how to, like, where to go or how to decide. I am giving you the information, the best information available for you to make the smartest decision.
Hmm. And
I
so,
spent, I spent, you have no idea. I actually don't want to be like a bitch, but the Penguin Random House was so bad at like checking numbers. I was so good at that because I think that I was smarter at that. I hope that they don't listen to your podcast. I don't
I
think they
doubt
will.
it.
About it.
I
Yeah.
doubt it.
That's why I'm telling you this. I think I was so much smarter than them at checking information. And so I felt such a big responsibility at that I spent so much time looking into the numbers. Like if there's a spelling mistake, that's a problem. But numbers, I was accountable for that. So I
Hmm.
spent a lot of time
Hmm.
into making sure they were correct.
Well, what are you doing now for obviously you got on stage at TEDx and or was it TED in general? There's TED and TEDx. I don't know the difference. Like,
No, I mean, I'm not that well known. It's TEDx.
yeah.
TED someday.
So TED someday. Yeah,
Someday.
TED's the main stage, I believe, but TEDx all across the world. And
Someday.
and so, when you're out there, what was your TEDx talk on, and what are you doing now specifically to, I guess maybe help others in their life? It seems like you have the servant mindset. So are you waking people up when it comes to just being aware of what's happening in the world, or tell us your solutions that you offer to the world now?
Yeah. So my TEDx was about simplicity in language. Less is more when it comes to communications. And I think that companies, people, media don't understand that. Marketing politicians do understand that.
Yeah.
That's why,
Specifically, one guy and that's running for president in the United States
no,
understands that.
he and every successful politician understand that. Do you know why Trump, and every successful politician speaks in a language of a kid
Yeah.
of
Oh yeah.
11 or
The most
between?
popular speeches of all time are written at a 13 to 14-year-old
Exactly.
level, very much like a book.
Exactly. That's my TED talk.
Yeah. So simplicity. Why? Because individuals do not get that. What is he talking about? I don't know what that word means.
No, it's because simplicity in language allows you to get to greater audiences, to big audiences. Why do you think the Got Milk, do you remember that
Of course.
publicity campaign? 2 words. It's 30 years after the biggest marketing, sorry, the biggest, the most successful marketing campaign of all time.
Wow. I didn't know that.
With 2 words, an American marketing company, they pumped milk consumption across all of the US with 2 words because they connected and with a big audience through a simple language. Less
It
is more.
makes you a
Keep it
much better
simple, stupid.
storyteller. It
Keep
much,
it keep it simple, stupid. The
yeah.
KISS principle of your American Army, 1960s.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid. Apply to everything, UX,
Yep.
everything.
Yeah. And people will remember it. If they remember it, they can actually regurgitate it themselves. Therefore, you want it to be so simple for them to communicate it to others. Yeah.
Why do you think that one of the most privileged minds of our time talked about the simplicity in language all the time? Albert Einstein. All the time. He said it throughout his entire life. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Genius is the person that keeps it simple,
Yep.
not the one that makes it complex. Einstein, all the time.
Very much like Steve Jobs referenced that too. There's an art to taking something that's complex and complicated and breaking it down so the average person understands it. If you could do that, you can lead an army, you can win battles, you can lead a company.
There you go. There you
Mm.
go.
I got to check that out. Is that on YouTube, by the way? That TED Talk?
It is, but it's in Spanish. You're not going to get it.
There's AI. I could get
Oh, yeah, that's true.
it. So, very
That's true.
nice. Now,
Uh,
your podcast, you interview some big names, I believe, in your country. Give
mhm.
us a little bit about your podcast. So if people hear you on this podcast, I guarantee they're going to fall in love with you. So maybe they speak Spanish. I think it's all in Spanish, right?
You know what I've been loving about it? That people tell me that they see me in my element. Like, yeah, you're definitely not going to see me like shine speaking about economics. That's for sure. I think that people see me very happy, very me, very Javi being in my Javi era. Uh, I think that they see me enjoying myself. And if it shows, it's because I think it's true. And I don't know. I don't know. I think that I've worked my ass off in the last 4 years for this moment. And I think it's all coming together. And what I've loved the most is, I don't know, I've had people that have been on TV for 25, 30 years telling me this has been the best interview ever. Like people who have been interviewed by everybody and their mother. And like, and I don't know. I think it's exciting.
And what do you think is the reason for that? Are you just a curious person, or are you applying basically the techniques of, listen, let me just serve you and my audience at the same time. So if I can give you a platform and my audience some insight, I win as a person.
No, I attribute what's happening beyond, remember, beyond titles, beyond press titles. I am not looking for a press title. I am looking for profound messages for my interviewee. How do you call the person who is being interviewed?
Interviewee, yeah.
Interviewee?
Interviewee, interviewer. Yep.
Okay. So I'm looking for my interviewee to come to a safe place where I am not looking to, I am looking for them to feel safe. I am not looking for me to look like the clever person. I don't want to speak. I want to speak 5% of the podcast and have them speak 95% of the podcast.
Wow. I thought it would be the 80-20 rule.
No, I don't want to speak. In fact, I don't appear in my reels and people are complaining about it, but I don't care. And so I kind of lost track of where I was going, but it doesn't matter.
95.5. 95.5.
Okay. Yeah, but I don't remember where I was going with that. Anyway, um, I think that part of the success is that the interviewees are feeling like they're coming to a safe place where they're not going to get attacked. Nobody's looking for a headline. Headlines, not titles. It was headlines, beyond headlines. That's the accurate translation. Beyond
Oh,
headlines.
got it.
Got it?
That's of your podcast. That's the accurate translation. Got it. Okay.
Mhm. And so, yeah, it's like very famous people, like you know, in a way that you've never seen them before. And so that's also caught the eye of media and of people. It's like, oh my God, I never thought this guy was like this girl was like that. So interesting. And like, I don't know.
Hmm. Who's the most famous person you interviewed?
So far,
Yeah.
so far, I had a very, very famous TV personality, Jose Miguel Viñuela. And it was so funny. We had a cross confession that is, it's so funny. We're going to publish it collaborative on Friday night. was my crush when I was a little girl, and he was on TV. And I told him when we were on the podcast, I was gonna leave it for the last minute because I was so nervous when he came in. He's like he's 50. I'm 36. He's 15 years older than me, 14. And like he had a TV show when I was a little girl, and I was in love. I was in love with this guy when I was a little girl. And we started speaking about his show minute 9 of the 1 hour show podcast. And he was like, "Did you like the show when you were young?" When I was like, and I was like, "I didn't like it. I loved it." And he was like, "Really?" He was like, "Who did you like?" And I was like, "You." And he was like, "No." He was like, why didn't you tell me?" And I was like, because how was I didn't know you. And he was like, "But really, did you like me?" And I was like, "I was in love with you when I was a little girl." Like, and he goes like, "I'm in love with you when I was I fell in love with you when I was an old guy." And the podcast went to shit. I turned red. Everybody was laughing. I had to get up. I had to drink water. It's like, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. You have no idea. It's going to be massive. That's going to be viral. That's going to be viral. That's going to go viral. Trust me.
Oh my God.
No,
I
no,
don't know
no.
who that is, but I'm gonna look this person up. That's amazing.
It's hysterical. It's hysterical.
My
It's so good.
God. All right. So we always ask our guests this question. If there's one book that you recommend outside of your own book, is there one that stands out?
The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, very nice recommendation. I've interviewed 225 people on this podcast so far, maybe, and you're the first person to recommend that book, just so you know. It's an amazing book.
Everybody has to read it.
The Power of Now. Yeah, very good recommendation.
Sorry, it's not financial. Sorry to disappoint.
No, no, we're all about, taking control of your life, and that does take control. It's all about taking control of your mindset. So, and creating urgency in your life. So, we believe in all of that. So, it works.
Yeah.
Anyways, outside of the podcast, the book, is there a way for people to get in touch with you? I guess Instagram is the number one, right?
I read everything, not comments. I don't read comments. I read every direct message that I get and I respond it.
So it's in your Instagram is, if you just want to say it for them, it's a
Economina. I don't know how you say that.
Economina_CL.
Underscore CL, which is Chile.
By the
Means
way, guys, look at her stuff. It's phenomenal. And we're talking about major engagement, 224,000 real followers, and it's phenomenal. So let's
What do you
talk about
mean
Money's
real
the book.
followers?
What's that?
What do you mean real? How could they not be real?
There's people who buy followers.
And how would you know if I buy them or not?
You would be able to tell mostly from the engagement.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy them. I don't
And,
have money for that.
yeah, so I'm like looking at these are real comments, real stuff. So you could spot them pretty easily if it's not. So from what it looks like, these are real followers, by the way. So nice job. I have to say, we could probably talk for hours about either the New World Order, economics, storytelling, empowerment, freedom, but that'll be for another time if you want to come back on. I almost was.
If you'd have me.
Yeah, I'd love to talk with you because you're fun. You didn't really expect too much out of this podcast. You're like, who are you? What do you do? And you're fun to just have a conversation about anything. So thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
No, thank you for having me.
And I'll look for that viral clip. Guys, check out Javiera Quiroga. Girl, that works. That's close.
You did a good job.
And read her book, Let's Talk About Money. Remember, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life.